Everybody for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, quick thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet $50 on any game. Get up to $1,111 in free bets courtesy of the Betfred Sportsbook. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Do want to go ahead and wrap with one more topic, and it's a topic we've talked about actually probably more than anything else here on the Aaron Torres pod over the last couple months. That is the college basketball transfer portal. Now, I promise what I am not going to do today is rip through a bunch of names and schools and this and that, although it is worth noting, I just did it last week because guys are still sort of entering the portal. Now, as you remember, we've talked about it a ton on this show. But May 11th was essentially the deadline in which players could enter the transfer portal with one little caveat. That little caveat was that if you graduated, if you are a graduate student, there essentially is no deadline to when you can enter the portal. Now, in theory, the deadline is actually August 28th, which means that players that have graduated by technicality have another 7 weeks that they could enter the portal. That is insanity. And so we've talked a ton about the portal. We've talked about deadlines. By the way, the NCAA last week in their meetings has talked about limiting the transfer portal windows. But graduate transfers are basically playing by an entirely different set of rules than undergraduates. And on the one hand, I totally get it. You graduate, you should be given more freedoms if you want to play college basketball. At the same time, though, August 28th does feel a little bit like, that feels like a little bit too far into the future. And one coach this weekend actually called out the NCAA and said, look, stuff needs to change. We can't have this August 28th deadline. That coach is John Calipari. And listen, we've talked a ton about Cal this offseason, the good, the bad, the this, the that. But on Friday, right before the holiday, he did have a press availability where he talked about a lot of different things. Made some weird comments, by the way, about 27, 28-year-olds playing college basketball. We won't talk about that. But Kentucky is going on a foreign tour here in a couple weeks. They're going to Canada to play in an international event. And he had a press conference, and he actually talked about this exact topic. Graduate students having the chance to enter the portal through August 28th. Some very interesting comments from Coach Cal. Here is what he had to say. Because everything has changed, you have a lot of teams. They need guys. I'm going to make a guess, and I've been wrong before. But I would say 10 more transfers will happen, maybe in August. So a team that thinks they have guys, you're not going to have that guy. Why would that happen? How could that happen? Transfer because they graduated from the other school. They can do that August 28th and transfer because they graduated. There's no time limit. There's nothing. And so let me say this. I have gone through the 7 stages of Coach Cal this offseason. Frustration, disappointment, anger, and then some newfound respect because he was able to put together his roster late. And oh, by the way, I know he took a transfer a few weeks ago. I think Bob Huggins getting fired or resigning, in the middle of June is a little bit different than what Coach Cal is talking about. But what I will say is, while I know we're all for player mobility and opportunity and stuff like that, I actually agree with Coach Cal. I think the August 28th deadline is just way, way, way too late to be eligible to play next year. Now, to be clear, I'm pro transfer. You guys know where I stand. I haven't always been. I've come to accept that this is what it is. And I really ultimately have no real fundamental problem with the way things are set up. At the same time, though, it does feel like even if we want to give graduates a little bit more wiggle room, August 28th does feel insanely late, right? So I'll give you an example. Just a few weeks ago at Alabama, something we talked about on last week's show, Javon Quinterly, a 6th-year senior, everyone expected him to come back. He tells Nate Oates in mid-June, hey, dude, appreciate the last 4 years here. Thanks for letting me get my degree. I'm going to go see what else is out there. Now, listen, we can argue about Nate Oates, and I know he didn't have a great regular season, and I know a lot of people, including myself, were frustrated with how Nate Oates handled the Brandon Miller situation. But at the same time, I'm going to defend Nate Oates on this one, right? We can all kind of agree. You give a kid, the season ends in March, okay? For Alabama, the season literally ended in late March. From there, a player then has the opportunity to enter the portal through May 11th. Alabama survived that date, okay? Javon Quinterly tested the NBA draft waters, announces he's coming back June 1st. They've started summer school at Alabama. So essentially what you're saying is season ends, enters the NBA draft, survives the June deadline, starts summer school, and now in late June, he announces he wants to leave. That doesn't feel a little bit ridiculous to everybody else? I'll take it a step further because I think Cal kind of hinted at this. I couldn't find the exact quote. But you understand a lot of schools are going to go on summer tours here these next few months. And so what happens if you have a guy, a graduate transfer, a guy that has told you that he is coming back, that is committed to your program for 2023, 2024, and you didn't recruit over him, and he said he's coming back, and he committed to you, and you committed to him? What happens if you go on a foreign tour and he doesn't like his playing time? He doesn't like his teammates. He doesn't like his fit. He doesn't like his role. He thinks he should be playing more. You think that guy ain't going to enter the portal and try to find a new home? Because I believe that guy very much will. And as Cal said, there are still going to be guys to enter. And so I get the player mobility stuff. I have no issue with it. I get having a transfer portal window. I'll take it a step further. I even get the idea of allowing players who have already graduated a little bit more wiggle room, right? So even if the draft deadline is June 1st, maybe you give them all of June because they come back and, they enter the draft, they come back, and then they're trying to figure out if they actually want to stay in college or not, or do they want to stay on their campus? Okay. But I do think August 28th just feels insane. I mean, just imagine your team, pick a player that's a graduate that comes back in August 11th, August 14th, July 28th, and says, Coach, I'm not playing. And that coach has no alternative to go ahead and replace them. It's okay to have player mobility. It's okay for players to have rights and have freedoms that they didn't have 3-4 years ago. But August 28th to be eligible for this coming season, not gonna lie, that feels a little ridiculous to me. And I give Coach Cal credit for speaking out on it. By the way, I don't know this for sure. My guess is the next chance that Nate Oates has for media availability, he's probably going to say something as well.